Oh, hey, Nate, what's going on, man? Another one of these meet in the basement at the bar kind of conversations, huh? We occasionally talk about like AI and just the future of work. I like to always try and correlate it of how it ties to business. But one of the big things that's been probably buzzed definitely last 5 days, but maybe 10. It's called DeepThink, the China open source China open source model of AI, large language model. Basically, summary for anyone who's not familiar, open source, so everybody has access and see what's going on. You can download your own version of it and play with it and modify it. The performance on this model, I think it's called the R1 model, is comparative to the O1 model from OpenAI. It beats it in a couple small benchmarks, edges it out by a few points. But the big thing that I think everybody's making a hub to do about is that they did it for a fraction of the cost. So for $5 million, they created this open source. Everybody can see it. Everybody can use it for $5 million, where the big players are looking at $5 billion on some of their training models and launches. So this is really cool, but I want to kind of take it on a tangent and then I'll bring it back for business. If we aren't, as business owners, forward thinking and trying to map out how we're going to use AI in the next 2 to 5 years, you're going to fall behind. Maybe you're in one of those rare scenarios, I don't know, hairdressing or something like that. You're a little insulated, but even then, you're missing opportunities to really drive parts of your business, right? So automate parts, really drive efficiency and recreate methodologies of way to get work done. But in a ton of industries, it is just going to make the path of the old way obsolete. So you got to try your best to push and stay with it, or else you're going to get left behind. That's what I think. Now, let me bring it back. I think there's a part of this story that not enough people are talking about in the AI world through OpenAI. Sam Altman and his crew were at OpenAI. So they have a meeting. I believe it's January 30th. So this week with the federal government. Now, this isn't too unusual, but whenever they have a really big leap forward, they go and talk it through with the government first. And they go, hey, man, is this okay? What are the ramifications? We don't want you to be surprised and just crazy knocked out of the world. Why do I think this needs to be talked about? Not just that meeting, but here's what I kind of think. I think OpenAI is well past. So they got their O3 model that's being iterated, tested, ready for launch the next couple of weeks. And the performance on that is pretty impressive, pretty much like low PhD level performance from a knowledge base. They just launched their Operator, which is an agentic system. So it's an agent that you put it on an assignment and it does work. That one specifically is captured in a browser, so a web browser, so it's limited to that box. But you see, agents are already here. 2025 is the year of agent and agentic software. Back to OpenAI, I think they're well ahead. Like, they're probably working on the O5 release, or if they change the name. So people are like, oh, look, this open source model from China, and they're making this big, hub to do about it. But the reality is that I think behind closed doors, the big players in their lane are well beyond that. That's what I think. Because, when you're comparing it to O1, the reality is the open source is probably 3 months behind. But that's because once something is released, they can tinker and they can catch up very quickly. They're catching up to what's been released, not the unknown or not the stuff that's being developed. Does that make sense? That's the part of the story that I don't think enough people are talking about, is that what's going on behind and some of these synergy points. I know this is going back a couple weeks, but Google announced their quantum chip, right? Now it's a prototype, so it's not in mass production. It can't quite be used yet, but it did 70 trillion year task in 5 minutes. Think that through. Like, if you were, when that goes live, maybe that's 3 years out, but when that goes live, like, what does that do to the training model? So I'm not too worried about the open source part, and I'm glad they did it. I think that's great. This batch of really smart people in China, thumbs up to them. Mathematicians doing this as a side project for, to hustle for their, what else can we have our computing farm doing? That's really awesome. But I think it's, typical of the news cycle. It's a ton of hype and just talking sensationalism. And I think ultimately the path, at least that I'm paying attention, is still what is OpenAI pushing, because I think there's been some indication behind the scenes kind of that they're much further along than we're seeing. Let me kind of bring it back and then we'll wrap up and close out. So as a business owner, what can we do? We can really plug in. There's plenty of learnings. I have two people that I really like. I've got my friend and business advisor, Dale Gibbons. He does some stuff on the AI-powered business owner and coach. We've got a local guy, Dr. Jeffrey Bullock. So if you just lost that, maybe some of their resources, maybe at some point Pareto will start putting out its own resources in the AI frontier from a learning and education standpoint. But find a way. I don't think it has to need to be all in, but just find one or two things and figure out how to use them is kind of where I would start. And the second some agents really start going live, browser could be an argument. It's kind of behind a paywall right now, the operator browser agent. Stay on that leading edge and try and push yourself to integrate and use it and learn it, or put somebody in your team in charge of it. That's going to be it for today on that topic of AI and the news going on right around us. Like, subscribe, follow. Please be a part of this journey with us. We are here to help small, medium business owners and entrepreneurs really elevate their business just through a sharing of knowledge and a working on discipline and a dedication to getting better together. Like, subscribe, follow, and see you soon.